Hello, I'm Sucheta, and this is a pre-recorded presentation for the 2020 meeting of the Society for Mathematical Psychology. I will be talking about predicting memory outcomes in a word recognition task with classifier-based approaches. EEG is widely used to analyze brain activity for recognition memory. In an event-related potential or ERP analysis, we look at the contrast in brain activity for different conditions, for example, different memory outcomes. Such contrasts are evaluated both during the study phase to look for subsequent memory effects as well as during the test phase to look for all new effects. At study, two ERPs, namely the late positive component or LPC and the slow wave, show more positive amplitude for hits than misses. Two ERPs at test, namely the FN400 and the LPP, show more positive voltage for targets than lowers. However, ERPs are subject to planned comparisons and descriptive statistical models. The EEG signal is retrieved from specific electrodes which are selected based on prior studies. Also, the signal is averaged over many trials, which washes out components with more variability. Thus, despite robust correlations from with memory outcomes, ERP analysis does not allow for causal interpretations. Accordingly, although the subsequent memory effect is referred to as identifying brain activity predictive of memory, it has not been tested for predictiveness. On the other hand, classifier approaches can be used to automatically learn association between memory outcomes and features of the EEG signal. First, we tested if single trial measures of known recognition memory ERPs could predict memory outcomes. Following a signal detection theory approach for each participant, first we sorted the individual trials by the amplitude of the ERP. Then, each amplitude was set as a threshold to classify trials between the memory outcomes. At each threshold, we calculated the true positive and false positive rates, which were then used to plot the receiver operating characteristic or ROC curve. Area under the curve, or AUC, of the ROC was used to assess predictive success. For arbitrary predictions, AUC would be 0.5. For a perfect classifier, AUC would be 1. Next, we tested if we could predict memory outcomes using the multivariate spatiotemporal EEG signal and through two linear classifiers, LDA and SVM. For computational efficiency, we selected a subset of 10 electrodes covering the scalp and averaged the signal for each electrode for 100 millisecond long time windows. Classifiers were trained with tenfold cross-validation and performance was assessed by AUC of the ROC again. Across 64 subjects, we found that single trial estimates of LPC or slow wave at study could indeed predict subsequent memory significantly better than chance. However, the 95% confidence interval of the AUCs indicated a small effect size. Modest improvements were achieved with multivariate classifiers, thus suggesting importance of features beyond the known ERPs. Substantial individual differences in classifier performance was also noted. Interestingly, classifier AUCs were positively correlated with participants' performance measured using D'. This could suggest that if a participant was more engaged, the corresponding EEG signal had greater signal-to-noise ratio for the classifier to pick up on. Single trial estimates of FN400 and LPP also predicted memory better than chance. The 95% confidence intervals indicated greater effect sizes than the study ERPs. This further improved with multivariate classifiers. Together, EEG features at test were more predictive than EEG features at study. The correlation between D' and classifier AUC was also present at test. Now, understanding the prospect of classifier approaches in identifying relevant brain activity for recognition memory is not only important for advancing the basic theories, but also for many learning applications. Despite the small 95% confidence intervals and overall significant effect in predicting memory from single trial EEG features can be encouraging. The correlations between D' and classifier AUCs also suggest that it may be possible to get better predictions by increasing the motivation for the task. Further, in our dataset, analysis of the LDA feature weights for the subsequent memory classifier showed that there were two clusters of participants with seemingly different feature weight patterns. This could suggest that there may be multiple ways people study in a recognition task. Accordingly, in order to efficiently predict memory, future studies may also benefit from a careful consideration of many behavioral factors that influence memory outcome outside of the brain activity during the study or test phase. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to your feedback.